Let's talk about the women's national team because the World Cup starts in just 10 days. It will kick off in Auckland at Eden Park. Bev Priestman has had her side on the Gold Coast for a couple of weeks now with the final pre-tournament camp. She had to cut the roster down, and the 23 was announced on Sunday afternoon. And here will be your women's national team that will try and go in and maintain their world domination, from winning the Olympics to trying to compete and have their best ever finish at a World Cup. Some very familiar names, of course. Christine Sinclair will be going into yet another World Cup. Buchanan, Lawrence, Schmidt, Sheridan. This is her first World Cup as the number one. Prue and D'Angelo will back her up. Grosso gets into the team, and then some surprises due to fitness, due to form. The likes Jade Revere is in, Olivia Smith is into the team, Gabby Carl gets the call. There are a lot of stories. And then, of course, you can't forget who's not going to be available for this team. Jade Rose, just a couple of days before the roster was announced, was ruled out due to injury. Of course, there's no Janine Becky, and that team is going to look very, very different. Two names we weren't sure of. Well, really, there were three: Desiree Scott, Nichelle Prince, and Deanne Rose. Desiree Scott, not healthy enough to make that team. She put a statement out on social media saying how difficult it was for her not to be able to be back in time. Bev Priestman commended her on how hard she pushed to try and get there. She was not able to get fit in time, but Deanne Rose and Nichelle Prince, both on Achilles injuries, are going to be back. Bev Priestman had said, Ollie, the biggest thing is going to be how many minutes can we get out of them, but she is expecting them to be ready to go if the tournament was going to start tomorrow. How important is their health and their inclusion to this team for you as they try and really get out of this group?
Yeah, it's vital, and it's great news that they're in the squads. And congratulations and well done to both of the players, because coming off those two injuries, Prince in particular had a tight timeline, and so to make this World Cup is an achievement that I think they deserve a lot of credit for in terms of the way they've committed to their rehab and return. It's still one that you're a little bit concerned about, I think, if you're a Canada fan, though, just because of the lack of minutes for both players coming into this tournament and the importance of both players when they're at their best and they're fit and firing. Deanne Rose, got 87 minutes in the WSL after returning from her injury. Nichelle Prince obviously hasn't played for her club since getting the injury. Obviously, Canada will play a couple of warm-up games, which will help them on that road to return. But you still feel like you're going to have two players who probably aren't fully fit, certainly aren't match sharp, right, in terms of being able to go into World Cup games, excuse me, and impact them early on. So when you look at the depth on the wings, Leon has had very sporadic minutes since going to Portland on loan after not really playing for Manchester United. Lacasse is coming off another fantastic season, but only 4 starts ever for Canada. She's still a relatively inexperienced player at this level. It's a big question mark, I think, for a team that has not been particularly well stocked with goals to begin with. Just how those wing positions are going to unfold at this tournament.
The thing is, you can't use it as an excuse whatsoever, because what teams in this tournament haven't been affected by loss through serious injury? And going into a tournament like this, if players are not playing or haven't played on a regular basis, it's very, very difficult to throw them in right away and expect them to perform. So I look both. Rose may be a step ahead of Prince, just in terms of where she's at in terms of her recovery. But these are players that you can maybe count on to maybe give you something off the bench rather than go from the get-go in these games. So that's the bonus. It does make you a little bit nervous, but it also shows maybe a little bit of a lack of options in those positions to bring other players rather than these two. Des Scott, for me, it's going to be a tough one to replace. You understand why. She turns 36 at the end of the month. When was the last time she played? It's very difficult if you're going to bring a player like Scott for all those veteran attributes, good in the room, experienced, a proven winner, when you have two other players like Rose and Prince carrying something or coming back and being a question mark. There's only so many spots in your 23 that you can keep for players like that. So Scott's the big one for me, because if she was fit, spin it back to the way that she played in the Olympics, was such an important player for this team. And you lose some of that mettle, you lose some of that grit, experience in the midfield. And that for me would be the bigger concern, because this team at this tournament, I think they're going to have to play like they did in the Olympics. Tough to break down, very strong defensively, take your chances when you can, moving forward in attack. I just don't look at this being an expansive team, one that's going to like run around and through teams. It's going to be one that's going to be disciplined and, and be a very difficult team to break down.
And there's no doubt Canada is going to miss the destroyer in Australia. She would have been a big impact. And all the best to Desiree Scott. I know she'll be watching and cheering on louder than probably anyone, but it'll be good to see her in the Maple Leaf when she is fit and ready to go again. And maybe that is September when they have their Olympic qualifier, that away and home against Jamaica. You mentioned her age, Gareth. She is one of the ageless wonders on this team, but the ageless wonder, Christine Sinclair, 40 years old. She will be captaining the side again going into her sixth World Cup, trying to score in a sixth. Marta will be trying to do the same, of course. What are your expectations, though, Gareth, on what Christine Sinclair can provide at this stage in her career? The run of goal-scoring form for the national team has not been as prolific as it once was, as much as Canada would love to see Christine score in bunches every year until she's 60 years old. There's a reality that time is against her, and this is probably her final World Cup. I think that might give her that little bit of extra motivation to push for one more magical story.
Maybe. Well, the motivation is absolutely there. She's a true competitor, but the goals have dried up a little bit playing for Canada. She's still scoring for club, which is fine. But for Canada, the biggest question is, what role is she going to play in this team? Where is she going to play? How that's going to fit in terms of the way that the puzzle has been constructed. It's not an easy one to answer. I'm really not sure what to expect. I know her manager, Bev Priestman, is trying to build her up. She says she's in great form. I think I might have read somewhere that she's never seen her in a shape like this. Like, come on, like that's just patently not true. But that's okay because she's still in good shape. She can still put in a shift, not to the way that she could a decade ago, but that's fine. She can still be a useful player in this team, but it's just about the way that she's used. Is she pushed forward? Is she more playing in the midfield? Is she a 60-minute player? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. No, but this is what I'm getting at. Like, there's a little bit of an unknown when it comes to Christine Sinclair. As much as this is her team because she's an absolute legend, the more influential teams in the team players in the team right now aren't her, just in terms of the actual playing style. So it's interesting to see how that will all play out. And I don't really have a firm answer for you.
Ollie, is this the story you're most interested in for Canada this World Cup?
Yeah, it's up there for sure. I think you have to use her situationally at this point. There's still a ton of quality there. There's still the ability to be a difference maker in the final third in a way that not many players on this roster, I think, have that level of quality. So I certainly think she's got a big role to play. I just think there are going to be moments where you're looking for a difference maker. You're looking for someone who can create. I do prefer at this stage in the number 10 role to playing as an out-and-out striker. And there are going to be games, particularly in the group stage, I think, where you can accommodate that and the good outweighs what you maybe don't get from Sinclair at this stage of her career. I think there are also going to be moments, particularly if Canada gets to the knockout stage, where Bev Priestman's going to have a big decision to make. In that there are going to be reasons why she wants her captain and the leader of the team, and again, that attacking quality on the pitch. But there's also going to be situations where you can't, I think in the modern game, you can't carry anyone defensively, right? You need players who can run, who can execute what you're trying to do in terms of pressing, in terms of, your defensive structure when you sit deeper. And whether Sinclair is the best option, particularly in a midfield role at this stage of her career, the answer is probably not. You're going to be looking to someone, maybe Jessie Fleming in a higher role, someone like that who can put in the defensive yards as well. So it will be an interesting one to see how Bev Priestman manages it. I do think Sinclair still has something to give, particularly when you look at the question marks around some of the other attacking players on this team, whether it's fitness or form. But I do think it's going to be more situational than obviously we've ever seen before from Sinclair at a World Cup.
And for me, it's why I think Leon and Rose and or Prince are the most fascinating players in this team, because for Sinclair to be at her best at this stage in her career and where she's at, she needs dominant wingers. She needs wingers who can drive at defenders, have them drag out to carry and follow them, and leave those half spaces for Sinclair where she is still at her most dangerous. And to pick up on what you said, in a knockout, I don't think Christine Sinclair can start for you, because I think you want her in extra time. I think you would want her as a potential shootout taker. And if she's starting the game, you know for a fact that she's not going 2 hours of football and then penalties. So it's going to be fascinating. And this tournament for Canada, I mean, it's a lot of people are calling their group the group of death for a lot of good reasons. Nigeria is who they start the tournament against. There were rumors that they were going to boycott the first game due to compensation risks. Their captain went on Twitter yesterday and said that is absolutely not what's going to happen. So at least there is that security for Canada. They can prep for the Nigerians, who are quick, who are physical. Remember seeing a ton of them against Canada in the celebration tour in British Columbia for those matches. And while Christine Sinclair did have a goal in that game, it was from a costly turnover, but that's neither here nor there. They get through them. They will have to play Ireland, who is an unknown for a lot of reasons, their first major tournament, and then Australia in Melbourne to potentially win the group, and depending on how it goes for Canada, to get out of the group, depending on how those first two matches go. So this is going to be fascinating to see how they are able to manage everything, especially flying from the West Coast to the East Coast in Australia throughout this whole competition. One other thing that I think caught a lot of people by maybe surprise, but also just gave that feel-good story that you always love coming into these tournaments, was a very special moment for North York, Ontario's Olivia Smith. Let's tune in and see her reaction to finding out she was heading to the World Cup.
Hey Liv, how are you doing? Good. I just thought we'd have a chance to connect before you went to Koala Sanctuary, and a bit of a review after the last few days. How have you found it all?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm enjoying my time here.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's good.
yeah.
So listen, this might come as a bit of a shock to you, but you're going to the World Cup.
Stop.
You are, yeah. You've come in, you've done outstanding. You know, we've had some conversations along the way. You've gone away, you've worked hard, and I want to reward all your hard work. You've come in, you've fit in really, really well, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be in the 23. So, welcome. And I'm not the only one who thinks that either. You've come in and made a big impression, so yeah, well done. You know who you need to give a call? Cindy and Joey. Because I know they pushed you. Yeah, well done. You put a big shift in to get to where you are. But massive well done. All right, so now you got to call your family and tell them.
Well done, Kira. Well done, congratulations. Awesome. You weren't expecting that, eh?
You got me in tears, and I'm like, yeah.
Here we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Getting Bev Priestman in tears is no small feat. Congratulations to Olivia Smith, a superstar for Canada's U20 sides. 20 goals in 18 U20 caps for the youth national team, and now she'll get a chance to feature in a World Cup at just 18 years of age. Bev also went on to say this: I think she has nothing to lose with Desi gone. She gives us a different dynamic. She's young but has some grit, has played in a youth World Cup and was critical last time out. She's been with the team before and has been outstanding, a different profile than Nichelle, Deanne, or Clarissa Laracy, who was not able to make the 23. Also, by the way, shout out to the Koala Sanctuary that Bev mentions at the top of that broadcast. I was there, the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. It was fantastic.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, listen, it's cool to like see them living my vacation 6 months later. I've literally have my New South Wales transit card with me right here.
Oh God, you pulled that out to show on the show. Hold on, just 2 seconds, Adam. Like I love that video. I wonder what Olivia was thinking with the cameras around and the lighting. She's like, what is going on here?
She's like, don't cry when you get cut. Don't cry when you get cut.
But that's what it's all about. Like, I think it's so generic. It's easy to be cynical about sports today with the money and the negotiating and the this and that. That's what it gets down to. There is no bigger honor than representing your nation. And Olivia Smith earned it. It's just such a wonderful moment. It's what every young kid dreams of growing up in this country. You want to represent Canada, and she gets to do that. It's brilliant. I was almost in tears as well. So well done. It's a great story. Unbelievable.
Becoming a father has softened you up, Gareth. It's a good thing.
Ollie, I want to get soft.
You are a big soft. People
it
might not
takes
understand
being
that
soft. That's for
Gareth
sure.
is a big softie. Someone who is not a softie is Oliver Platt. But did that tug at your heartstrings a little bit? Poke through the armor.
Yeah, that's what football's all about, right? And I'll say on Olivia Smith, like watching her at the youth tournaments, I think she's a really good player. Like, I don't think this is one where they're like, we're going to bring a player for 2027 who's going to get some experience here. I think she's been picked on merit, and at least based on what I've seen of her, if she's not quite there ready to be a Canadian women's national team player just yet, she's not far off. And I think maybe in some minutes off the bench, she could, as the policeman said, give them a different type of option. Yeah.
If you're good enough, you're old enough.